We're going to let the slides speak for themselves for a moment here. This was fairly soon after we arrived at Wounded Knee. And we'll just let them go a minute, and then we'll break in if there's a slide that catches our attention. We're not real rehearsed on that. This one. That's probably the most poignant picture that we took. And that is the site where the people that died at the more recent, the old massacre of Wounded Knee took place. And I'll give you just a little history of this. I'm not really a history buff, but this caught my attention pretty big. In 1890, there was some stirring among the Plains Indians, and there were people thinking that Sitting Bull was responsible for some real anti-American kind of behavior. They had a thing they called the ghost dance, and everybody thought, our government thought that Sitting Bull was in charge of that. So they moved in December to arrest him. And on the 15th of December, in the fray that ensued around his arrest, Sitting Bull got shot and killed. And as you might expect, that increased the tensions for the area. So on the 29th of December, the United States Army, the 7th Cavalry, and if that rings a familiar bell to you, the 7th Cavalry were the ones that got their lunch handed to them, for lack of a better term, at the Little Bighorn, Custer's last stand. Those of us that are old remember that from our history books. We weren't there. But so they were a little raw from the defeat at Little Bighorn, the 7th Cavalry. They came in and surrounded the people at Wounded Knee, and a scuffle ensued. There were a number of troops. The number of people that were actually killed is a little up in the air. Estimates are anywhere, 150 is the minimum amount, and maybe as high as double that is what I was able to discern. Half of that number, roughly, were women and children. And there were some American officers or Army people that were killed that day as well. But that was a terrible tragedy. This is the plot where those people are buried. And the white flag is symbolic of the fact that they were trying to surrender, and the scuffle ensued. And Mike and I were both really moved when we came upon that plot, and just kind of walked around it, and it's a solemn place. That was in 1890. It's been a long time. This shows the names of many of the people that were killed there. And we tried, they're etched into the stone, and we tried to get a clear picture. That's about as good as we got right there. We didn't climb the fence. We thought that would be very unrespectful, so we stayed outside the fence. What do you got to say, Mike?
Okay.
Don't read my notes, okay?
Okay, I have my own actually. So
They're kind of confused.
this is a picture of some of the housing out there. It's kind of hard to see in that picture. You could go to the next slide. There's some more of it. Most of the housing out there is very substandard. Almost all of it was mobile homes and
This is really one of the more prosperous places.
well, There were some really rough places, double wides, a lot of boarded up houses because there was traces of methamphetamine found in those houses, so they board them up so they're not inhabitable anymore. One thing you notice in a lot of our pictures is the lack of greenery. I mean, we have lush forests and rivers and lakes, a lot of things to occupy a young man, which they don't seem to have that out there. And that was one of the things that I noticed a lot is what was missing out there. Just a minute here. Yeah, the things that I missed, yeah, a lot of things that I didn't see. There was seemed to be little manufacturing or industry around there, not much in the line of job opportunities. You can change the slide. And, yeah, that's...
See the little green leaf on the building?
Yeah, that's the local marijuana store in Pine Ridge. We were in Pine Ridge, and I really didn't feel comfortable taking a lot of pictures, and I actually had a little problem with I couldn't wait to get away from the guy in Pine Ridge. I mean, I'm reaching for the shifting lever, and it's a Dodge with a dial, and I finally got in gear and could take off because this guy was right up against my window. The Pastor Alex, was riding right beside me. He said he was high or drunk or thought I was somebody else anyway. And I had another guy approach me. We went into the gas station convenience store, which seemed to be the hub of town. And another thing I noticed in that town was, or in the whole area, was a lack of older men. You didn't see any of that around. The town had a homeless shelter, and there's, like I said, a lack of very many positive male role models, and there's gangs were a big thing, and Pastor Alex was telling about a 15-year-old boy that was showing him his 9mm handgun, and which Alex told the young man that if you have to fight, to use your hands. And yeah, you can go. I didn't feel comfortable. Like I said, I didn't feel comfortable taking pictures of the local people or that community. It was pretty rough. Very similar to inner city problems. It just was not a good situation. Now this is a picture of the church sign that's halfway between the main highway and the church, about a mile off, the little intersection there. And this is a picture of the muddy road in and out of the church. So they only have church about half the time of the year because they can't get in and out because of the road conditions.
It's over 2 miles. I think we mentioned that once before, from a blacktop road down to the church on that road.
Yeah, you can go another slide. And there's a picture of the pastor's truck who came home the evening before. Matter of fact, we were supposed to be there at 9 o'clock in the morning to make our delivery, but Alex got hold of us and said, hold on, wait later in the day, the road's all mud. We went in at noon and we muddied up our truck. We actually met his wife driving out, and she wasn't driving on the road, she was driving in the field. That's how bad the road is. So like I say, they can't have church half the time because of road conditions. And this is a picture of the interior of the church. Nice little building. And here's Pastor Alex and Pastor Richard having a conversation. And if you got anything you want to add there?
I can't remember what we were talking about. But that's a better picture of Pastor Alex, actually. You see his face there.
I don't know what they were talking about either, but they talked a lot. Kind of like our trip out there. We had an XM radio that we listened to for 5 minutes. The rest of the time we talked all the way out there and all the way back.
We had a radio?
Okay. Yeah, this is the close-up in the church. And now I want you to pay attention to this attendance sign here. Some of us here can remember when 30 people here on a Sunday was a big attendance. And we're really thinking that when they get their church, they're in the process of getting a church built out on the highway so they can have church regardless of the weather, unless, blizzard or something like that. But I just remember where our attendance was really low and the building was a quarter of the size it is now. And we really think that Pastor Alex is got a very good, I mean, he's the right man for the job, and I think they get out on the highway, they're going to be able to build that congregation. Now, this here is the retired pastor, Cecilia Spotted Bear. She is the grandmother of Pastor Alex. And you can tell by this picture how she is just radiant with the Holy Spirit. And really, she did. And as far as the relief effort, some of you might not know, but we hauled out about 400 pounds of meat and a couple hundred pounds of beans, dry beans, and we picked up some bar soap, cleaners, laundry soap, and some toothpaste. But that will go to good use for the people in the immediate area. But as far as the relief effort goes, after looking the whole place over, it was kind of like delivering a 5-gallon bucket of water to Lake Mead is what it felt like for me. There's such a need out there. But the major need is need of prayer, and the church can use some financial support too. But when we did the prayer, when Pastor Alex did the prayer request, I got the Holy Spirit goosebumps all over me, like happens here sometimes. Now, one thing I want to point out is the kid in the background. If you notice, on a lighter note, some things about kids are universal. Thank you.
Well, the most recent incident of Wounded Knee was in 1973, and there was a siege that took place. There were a number of people of the natives that developed a group called AIM, or American Indian Movement. It was kind of patterned after the Vietnam movements, radical kinds of behavior. You might have heard the name Louis Peltier. He was arrested, and ultimately, the courts kind of cleared the natives of that whole thing because it was learned that the FBI had interfered with some of the testimony and some of the witnesses and so forth. But what that group was successful in doing was bringing to light some of the problems and excesses that have happened to Native people ever since our forefathers landed on the shore and started taking over, basically. We can be really good at taking over. So there's tension still there. Mike mentioned the drug and the alcohol abuse, and that's kind of the coping tool that's being used, it looks like, to a large degree. And what they really need is Jesus. And this little church is an opportunity for that. You folks, when we told you we were going, were exceedingly generous. You gave us, well, we could have went on to California. But who'd want to go to California, So we didn't. We turned around and came back once we were done. And we had quite a bit of money left over. I can't remember the number exactly. 8. Okay. And so we sent that, and I'm asking for your permission, forgiveness if you didn't like it, but we sent that to their building fund. And the opportunity they have to move their church presence out onto a main highway, on a hill, on a blacktop road, presents all kinds of opportunities for that church to grow. That's the kind of relief and the help that we feel like they really need. And that's, as we talked and the elders and so forth have talked, and that's kind of where we'd like to come in to help as a church, would be we don't know what that looks like yet, but that $1,910 on the bottom of that one picture, that's their current local contribution to their building fund. Obviously, they're not going to build much for $1,910. they have other help that's coming, and, you know, when that gets fleshed out to where we can ask for more help, we'll do that. Whether a crew goes out and swings a hammer, Rick's smiling over there, you know, God's helping hand, right? You know, or whatever we call it. What's our name of our group? Hands of Jesus, yeah. Whether we go out and actually physically do, or we help them with financial. Yes, Rick. Not sure if tribal regulations would allow it. Yeah, I think so. So anyway, if you have questions about it, you know, just talk to Mike and I, because there's other things that's got to happen here today. But we just wanted to let you know that we really did go. Pictures prove it, right?